Chemical Reactions is the name of an album which is a joint project between Gavin Harrison and myself. I always had this dream of composing music to a symphonic orchestra, and back in 2015 I began to look at the feasibility of having this dream come to reality. I came in contact with conductor Antoine Fafard, who became the main catalyst in making this orchestral idea an actual possibility. He introduced me to orchestrator Mark Saliba and eventually booked a session with the Janacek Philharmonic Orchestra that is based in Ostrava in the Czech Republic.
I'm Anthony Armori, opera and orchestra conductor. Back in late 2015, our company Blue Danube Musik Impresario Vienna was contacted by Antoine to record some of his music. We took it into the studio with the Janacek Philharmonic Ostrava in the Czech Republic with click tracks. They loved it. I loved it. It was unlike anything I had done, or I think the orchestra had done. 4.5 years later, after overdubbing with Antoine's bass playing and Gavin Harrison's drumming, the project is ready to be released, and I wish it great success.
I composed 2 pieces with 15 minutes of orchestral music in total, and I worked closely with Mark to make sure that the scores and parts were ready for a session that took place in March 2016.
I worked on Antoine's album as an orchestrator and engraver. For me, this was a very exciting project from the perspective of blending orchestral instruments and electric bass and drums. I think Antoine's music is absolutely fantastic. I love it. It's fresh, energetic, exciting. In collaboration with drumming great Gavin Harrison, I think anyone who loves fine music, especially in the jazz and jazz fusion genres, will be absolutely excited to hear this album. As far as the recording is concerned, the Janacek Philharmonic, conducted by Maestro Amore, did a fantastic job, as did the musicians who recorded the quartet material. I'm very excited to hear the final release of this album and very proud to have worked and contributed to it.
After the orchestral session took place, I then added some bass tracks to this music and approached Gavin Harrison, who seemed interested to be involved in this sort of unusual project.
I'd worked with Antoine a few years ago. I guested on one song of an album of his that featured many drummers, and I was very impressed with his writing style. It had an interesting sort of emotional depth to it, which I really liked. So when he invited me to work on the orchestral pieces, I was intrigued and curious. It's easy to find inspiration when you listen to a piece and you can already imagine what you'd like to play on that piece. So really the difficult part was in the very intense detail of the arrangements.
One important aspect with an album project like this is that I wanted the music entirely performed, as opposed to work with programmed samples. I thought it was really crucial to have the performance and sound of real players with all the subtleties involved in making this music come to life.
I have, of course, worked many times with sampled instruments, MIDI instruments. Some of them can sound quite good, some of them sound pretty bad, emulating real instruments. But when you compare it to the real thing, real players playing real instruments, there's just no comparison. It's like a living, breathing, organic entity. Antoine persuaded me to play my marimba on some of the songs, so I was very happy to do that and to be for it to be part of the production of this record.
After that, Gavin came on board and recorded his parts on the orchestral pieces. I kept that music aside for the next 4 years. During that period, I worked on various projects, and right after the album Borromean Odyssey was released, I thought it was the right time to continue where we had left off and work on some new music with Gavin. The next step I did was to compose music for string quartet, which is another thing I wanted to do for a while. So I wrote about 30 minutes of music for that ensemble and managed to find some very good musicians to perform it. In fact, all the violin and viola parts in the string quartet section of the album were performed by one musician, Maria Grigg, who did a fantastic job. conclude the album, I composed a piece called Singular Quartz that includes violin, cello, vibraphone, and marimba. And on that specific piece, Jerry Goodman recorded some amazing acoustic and electric violin tracks.
I think one of the exciting options in this package is that if you're a drummer, you can buy the drumless versions, and if you haven't already heard what I've played, you'll be in exactly the same position I was when I heard the tunes, and you can see what you can create, what you can come up with against these exciting arrangements.
Gavin recorded some really musical and pretty spectacular drum parts on the whole project. For my end, I took the opportunity to use different kind of instruments on the album, including my fretted bass, fretless, and also an 8-string bass guitar.
So I'm very proud to have been part of this, and I hope you get a chance to check it out.
So the album is called Chemical Reactions. We hope you'll check it out.